Hello and welcome to this episode of Positively Negative. So the other day I was just watching TV and my dad walked into the lounge holding a whole bunch of filters that he'd found in his cupboard, that he'd obviously kept lying around. A whole bunch of colored filters, there's an orange filter as well. This is an interesting sort of Gaussian blur type thing. If you look in the center, you see that the center's clear and then everything around it sort of got a cool effect. Well, I don't know how cool it is. It might not be cool, but I'll try these out at some stage. The green filter as well. But the one I was most excited to try, and the one I have tried first, is this red filter, which he found. And I found that the red filter that he found fits onto my Nikon 50mm f1.4 lens. So I decided on a nice summer's day, just before the quarantine kicked in, to go for a bit of a walk around my neighborhood and take some pictures with the red filter and to see what effect the red filter has on black and white photographs. So the rule of thumb is that a red filter will lighten anything that's red in the image and darken anything that's the opposite, like blue skies, for example. Most often red filters are used in landscape photographs, when in black and white landscape photographs, when you want to darken the sky. So for interest's sake, maybe you want that like nice little white cloud in front of a dark sky. It basically heightens the contrast between the sky and the cloud. I've always liked the look of those shots, and I wanted to try and recreate some of my own. Unfortunately, it wasn't a particularly cloudy day when I went to shoot these images. So I know nothing about this red filter, so I just stuck it up in front of my light meter app on my phone, and I found that it cuts out 3 stops of light. So that's an important thing to remember. If you're adding a filter to a lens, you're reducing the amount of light that's hitting the film plane. That's hitting the film. So you have to compensate for that. 3 stops of light meant that I had to shoot my Nikon F400, which is a 400 speed black and white film. I had to shoot that at ISO 50. And because I tend to overexpose by a stop with Nikon anyway, I was actually shooting it closer to ISO 25. Fortunately, it was a really hot, bright, sunny day, so I was shooting it at probably f8 at 1/25th of a second most of the time. So what else does a red filter do? A red filter lightens things that are red or pink. You'll see there's a photograph I took of a pink flower, and on the black and white neg it came out completely white. So it looks like a white flower, actually it was pink, but because the red filter cutting out all that red light, it looks white. It's a small thing. It's kind of just fun. I try to shoot it against the blue sky, so you get this contrast between the white image and the dark sky, which looks pretty cool. It's a cool thing. So I think going forward, now that I've got these filters, whenever I want to shoot black and white landscapes, I think I'll go straight for the red filter. The contrast that it adds to the scene is lovely. What it does to the sky and to clouds is awesome, and I don't see any reason not to use it. Except for perhaps losing 3 stops of light. But if you're doing landscapes anyway, shutter speeds don't really matter that much. For just day-to-day street photography, I don't think I'd keep it on, just because it's harder to frame a shot and nail focus with the red tint in the viewfinder. But if you have a rangefinder camera or even a viewfinder camera, you mitigate that problem. Or a twin lens reflex camera, where you can place the filter on the taking lens but not on the viewing lens. That's also an option. I'll actually want to check if my filters will fit onto my Mamiya Flex TLR. I'll make another video about that if that is in fact the case, if they do fit. But in the meantime, take a look at the pictures I took with the red filter, and I'll see you afterwards. So I suppose the question then is, in this day and age, why you would want to use colored filters on your lenses when you can create the same effect in Photoshop or Lightroom or something after the fact. And I suppose that's a good question. I think the short answer is because it's fun. But the slightly longer answer would be, it does save you time in terms of post-production. If you know you want that high contrast look, then, shoot with the red filter and save yourself the After Effects or save yourself the post-processing time. On the other hand, you're shooting film, which, it's fun for me, at least personally, to try and keep the process as analog as possible. Even though I scan my negatives eventually to share online, It's fun for me to try and get the final image as close as possible to what I've got in my mind before the scanning happens. I want to do as little work in Photoshop as possible to the image. Maybe a slight adjustment to contrast, maybe a little bit of sharpening, but that's really it, especially with my black and white photographs. I don't want to fiddle too much. It seems to defeat the purpose for me. So when I want to increase contrast, in general, I'll overexpose black and white film, which increases the contrast. And now if you use a red filter on top of that, it'll increase it even more, which will give me closer to that look that I want with less work. Alright guys, thanks for watching this quickie. I'll be back soon with a review of my Minolta point and shoot camera I have in my collection. And yeah, I'll see you then.